should ask Owen right now because then you'll hear it.
Right now I have to stop saying
Time for us to do a mic check here on the DLS Stars pregame show. Sam, do you remember what the AC is like? Probably not the AAC because it's been a while. A couple weeks since the trade deadline, a 4-game road trip. Lots to talk about. Sam's over there, which is 5 blocks or so, give or take from here. Luddy's here. John's here. I'm here. So I guess we should get started.
Get ready, boys.
It is Tuesday, March the 18th. This is the DLS Dallas Stars pregame show. As you can see, for the 3rd time this year and final time, the Dallas Stars will be playing the Anaheim Ducks. Craig Ludwig, Sam Nestler, John Andersen. I'm Owen Newkirk. Thank you very much for joining us here as we are back at home. It's been a little while. Two-game trips, but separated by 4 days off. They came back. They win again. And Sam, to start it off, we're going to see a healthy scratch of a player that has played every game this year.
Yes, we will. A little surprising. Getting to Donoff will be the scratch up front for the Stars. Asked Pete about it. He made sure he told us it was a coach's decision, and also said this is just similar to what we talked about with Blackwell and Stankoven earlier in the year, and Steele when he was out. That there are a big bunch of guys at the bottom of this lineup that are not really separating themselves right now, and that's their job to get their names out of the conversation when they need to scratch someone, which right now they have an extra forward, so it's every night. Donoff's the one who draws out. He, like you said, is the first time he's missed the game. It's even more surprising, not necessarily because he hasn't been necessarily bad or anything like that, but because Pete trusts him so much. He knows him from his time in Vegas. He always loves to put him out there. He's given him benefit of the doubt, even if he's had tough games. So this is definitely one where they're obviously looking for something different than they had this weekend. So the Donoff will be the scratch with Colin Blackwell coming back in and being on that 4th line again.
Luds, before we get to the next one from Sam, when you look at Dodonov, what have you seen from him? Because I think they wanted to get Blackwell back in. It wouldn't have necessarily had to be him that scratched, but it kind of feels like it's okay that it's him right now based on his recent play.
Yeah, I don't see anything that stands out negatively or positively, which is probably a good thing. Listen, there's a couple guys here that aren't in their mid-20s, and if they can get a little rest before the playoffs start. The thing about Dodonov is you know what you get every night. It's the same thing with Granlund for me. I mean, they're similar kind of players. They're good at both ends of the rink, but it's unnoticeable, which I don't know if you expect. I mean, we see Dodonov a lot of times throughout the year man, that's a nice play. That's a nice play. It kind of flies under the radar. I think you've just been kind of vanilla. And maybe that's the best way to say it. And maybe they're just looking at that saying, we need to give him a rest. Yeah. That's it. We want to see what we saw early in the year.
Sam, you saw Cody Ceci didn't skate this morning. Is there any concern at all that he might not be able to play tonight?
Yeah, nothing health-wise, right? It was Pete said it was a family thing he had that he had to deal with this morning. So Pete did not necessarily say he's going to play, but he was pretty quick to say he had a family thing. He's fine. Brendan Smith skated pretty late, so I would be surprised. But we do know who knows what's going on. We imagine that if it is a family thing, Brendan Smith's going to come right back in, so it's not a huge difference. But it was a little bit interesting to see him, especially because CC's been one of those guys Lud's just talked about with the fit with the new guys. I asked Pete again today, now that we're a little bit down the line from, I believe that was a February 1st trade. Now that we're a month and a half into that, kind of where they stand, and he's thought everyone's seamlessly floated, and that includes Rantanen, who they're excited about Rantanen getting past all the stuff that Lud's talks about, all the distractions in Colorado and the trade and Carolina and all that. Now they can just play hockey, and I think that this next, whatever we have, 15, 16 games here, is going to be really important, not only for this team to find their footing and really hit their stride going into the playoffs, But for those three guys that are new to really take that next step, we should see Granlund and CC really starting to fit in fully. There's no more wiggle room, and we should see Rantanen start getting to that based on how high level of skill he has.
What about the updates that we heard this morning from Pete about Tyler Seguin and Miro Heiskanen?
Yeah, let's start with the better one, which is Seguin. Pete said that he's still skating. We saw that he skated with the Brahmas. He's skating in Frisco a bunch, pretty much every day, and Pete called it good progress. So they're fully expecting him to be back by the end of the season, if not maybe before that. And Pete did mention, someone asked about the contract to see if that was something that maybe holds it up. And he said, as far as he's aware, there's nothing contract-wise holding Seguin back from coming back. So whenever Seguin is ready, this team will look to get him back in. And it sounds like it's getting closer and closer to the fact that he might be able to play a few games here at the end of the season. So that's the positive side. The not-so-positive side is Miro Heiskanen is still not skating. And we are March 18th right now, which is less than a month till that to the final regular season game against Nashville. It's getting close, and Miro's been in the gym every day, so that's a good sign. But Pete did say, he was asked about, is it possible that you have to play a full playoff round without Miro? And he said that's a real possibility, and that's something that they are mentally preparing themselves for if that does become the case. And that's got to worry some people because, as we know, the first round is not a get yourself situated and flowing into the playoffs and hit the ground running in the second round. They're going to play the Colorado Avalanche, and that's going to be a very good series. So it's a little bit worrisome for a lot of Stars fans to hear that they may be without Miro for a few games, if not an entire series. So that's the latest that we have right now.
And then finally, you obviously took some interest in Pete's sort of reiteration that he had this morning about the weekend, which was against two of the teams in their division, the Winnipeg Jets and the Colorado Avalanche. What did you take away from what he had to say about the team's performance for both of those games?
Kind of backed up what we talked about, and I think that's why I was interested in asking about the weekend, is because we heard what he said in each specific game, but now looking back at both of those games with a little bit of a little bit of space in between, I'm sure they've broken down that film a bunch. Pete said that he was really disappointed in that game in Winnipeg, and not just because of losing the game and getting outplayed a little bit, but because Winnipeg looked like a team that was hungry and motivated to make a statement and win this division. He said they looked like they went out and they said, this is our division, this is our conference, we're going to take it, and they dominated the game and looked like that. And on the other end, Dallas didn't step up, and that's not necessarily, it's not a worry like, hey, that's going to happen as soon as the playoffs start and the intensity gets up there. But it is a little worrisome to see that when the intensity got the highest, when the best team in the Western Conference said, we're going to play our game, let's see what you can do, the Stars kind of fell flat and fell into the background, and they got outplayed for a large portion of that game. Pete did say they took a step up in Colorado, and if you look at the 5-on-5 play, it was better. But obviously, as we know, without those two late goals, they're losing that game 3-4-1, and it's not even a contest. So neither one is anything they really want to stake their put their foot in the ground and say, this is our team. But it was something that Pete did say was disappointing, and something that he's hoping to see go forward here is the team find that desperation might not be the right word, but he's mentioned desperation a lot with teams they play that are right there on the bubble of a playoff spot, or really need a win for another reason, or in the division race, whatever it might be. They've had that desperation, and Dallas has had a hard time finding that really, really high level of intensity when they've needed it most. And I think tonight is a perfect example of that. They are playing a team that is well out of the playoff spot, a team that is rebuilding, a team that you should expect to get 2 points against, but it's a team they've gone 0-2 against, and a team that they've struggled against in the past. This is a night where I think I'm really interested to see how intense the Stars are. If they come out and they play like a top Western Conference team, I think that's a huge motivation to not only them within the room, but the fan base and everyone around this team to see that, okay, they need to snap back into it. It was a bump in the road. Now they're going to hit the ground running heading into the spring.
Sam, I would hope that they would be thinking that this is a different kind of team. They expected to get 2 points from this team twice this year already, and that didn't work out. And so I'm hoping that you shouldn't have to say anything to these guys, that especially where you sit in the standings right now, who's right on your heels, and where you don't want to start the playoffs if you don't have to.
Maybe that's what they needed, right?
Yep.
They've been safely in that 2 spot for so long. Maybe it hurt them a little bit. Now they got someone nipping at their heels and no longer chasing that division. Maybe that lights fire under them for the last 15 or so.
All right, Sam. Well, go see if you can find one of those Noche Mexicana bandanas. We'd love to see you decked out for it in the post game.
I will do my best, boys. Enjoy the game.
All right, that's Sam Nestler over at the American Airlines Center. Luds, I want to go back through a couple of things that Sam talked about, but before I do that, I think we have to talk about kind of the big storyline for me. There's 2 parts. One is they're 1-2-1 in their last 4 games since the trade deadline, and it goes in with this is Mikko Rantanen's first game as a Dallas Star in front of the crowd and the fans at the American Airlines Center. And so I would imagine that after what he did, which was probably emotional, and he was probably worried if they were maybe he didn't think about it, but maybe he was worried about if they were going to give him a good reception or not in Colorado. And he had to deal with the media and all that. Now he gets a chance to see, and I think, maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, I think Dallas Stars fans were obviously thrilled about this acquisition. They haven't yet had a chance to, in a game setting, show just how excited they are that Mikko Rantanen plays for their team now.
Yeah, I think he'll find that out pretty quickly tonight, knowing these fans. And, you know, I think even when he was with Carolina, he knew, I don't even know if they had to play in Colorado again, but if they did, he already had that date in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So when he got flipped over here to Dallas, he knew exactly when it was, and it was coming up quick. And so it's probably similar to a breakup. You know, you needed to face him and get it out and put a period on it and now move on. And hopefully that's what he accomplished. I mean, when you guys told me he was meeting with the team and he was going to go out to dinner, I've never heard of that. Again, I'm sure it happens, but that's just old school ways. That doesn't happen. You're dead to me is basically what happens.
Yeah.
But now I think
that's hard to do after 10 years and a Stanley Cup win too.
Yeah.
And
but
getting traded away
I get it.
Unrequested.
But I think it was all of that was like, is this a dream or is this a nightmare? What's going on here? So, but I think now it's behind him. I don't even know if it's completely behind him because he knows now he's going to have to play these guys in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to want to be motivated when he does play them. And if anything, you want to be going into the playoffs, playing these guys in the first round, now really making a statement and saying you made a mistake.
If you're Pete DeBoer, do you start Rantanen tonight?
Oh, yeah.
So he gets the announcement with the crowd and just go right at him?
I think it's, well, again, you know what?
You like to start Jamie Benn a lot.
Yeah, and sometimes it's the opponent, and you want to get off to the right kind of start. So maybe, well, you know what? Sometimes I wonder if coaches in today's game will go up and ask a player about that. You know, but I think it's more about the most important thing about tonight is the win of the hockey game, and you know he's going to get an ovation. He deserves one. He's one of the best players in the league, and he now is wearing this jersey, so he needs to let the crowd welcome him and then get that out of the way, and let's move on.
What did you think about the comments Pete made about both the positive updates for Tyler Seguin and the cautious, maybe pessimistic view on Miro Heiskanen?
Well, with Tyler, I think we've known for a long time. I mean, we were playing in Minnesota, what was it, 3-4 weeks ago, and I know the guy that was flying back to start skating with him. So that was kind of, okay, well, that's all good news. You hear that, we want to get going. And I think that, you know, when he's kind of been undercover or whatever and not out and not talking to people, he's working hard. He wants to get back. We kind of thought that he was going to be able to get back with 2, 3, 4 games to go in the regular season, which is great. On the other side of the coin for Miro, listen, we heard an interview with the owner 2-3 weeks ago, and he even said, well, I don't know if he's going to be back for the first round. I don't think that was supposed to come out like that, but it did. So now here we are, and here it may actually happen. Then there's the other part of me that is going, we already know who we're going to play, and they've got their their captain, Landeskog, who's been out for a couple seasons now. Now he looks really good. They're saying there is a chance he'd be back for the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. So this could be that playoff kind of stuff.
Are we getting gamesmanship with a month to go before the playoffs already?
And again, maybe they want them to think that, well, we're not going to have to face Heiskanen. Well, that's one thing we can cross that guy out there. Although Jared Bednar and the Colorado Avalanche and Joe Sakic's over there going, let's not believe anything those guys are saying. So we'll see. Hopefully it's not as bad. Well, we think it's bad, but it's nice so you get through the first round. If that's when Miro comes back and plays in the second round, great.
Sam just sent us a message. Cody Cece's on the ice for the warm-up, so it looks like, as we maybe thought, no problem, even though he didn't skate this morning. Up next, I have a lot of things to hit Luds with. We're going to talk about that next year as we continue on the DLS Dallas Stars pregame show. But first, let's talk about Sleeper. It's the best fantasy league platform out there. Put your puck knowledge to the test, or your ball knowledge, by testing whether your favorite or least favorite players will have more or less than their projected stats each week. We're going to do our video in a moment, and John's back in the saddle trying to help improve our score after Sam did nothing but lose over the last 4 road games. But let's talk about, with Sleeper, the more picks you combine, the more you can win, all the way up to 100 times your money. Sleeper keeps you in the loop with instant alerts for breaking news and major injuries. Stay ahead of the game and keep track of league updates in real time so you're always informed and ready to outsmart your friends. If you think you have what it takes, new users, remember that, can download the Sleeper app and use the code DLLSstars to get $55 in free entries when you place a $5 contest. Apply it to any contest. It doesn't have to be your first. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Now, I turn it over to the guy that has a winning streak to very much counterbalance Sam's losing skid. Here's John.
Emphasis on the skid there, Owen, and I will try my hardest. But before I do, I just like to mention that as a Dynasty fantasy football player, the Sleeper app is absolutely phenomenal for having multiple fantasy football leagues as well. The way that first off, the design is sleek as heck, and everything is laid out on one page. You don't need to go like on the NFL app and Yahoo to all these different pages trying to find like the slightest morsel of information. And the way that it connects all your leagues to each other, it just makes it a much better experience. So I would highly recommend Sleeper for that as well. But Owen, you mentioned I'm back in the saddle. Let's try to get Wyatt Johnston.
Here we go.
Let's try to get Wyatt Johnston back in the saddle as well. He's been way more Cryat Johnston than Byatt Johnston. That was the nickname. It slipped my mind for a second. Just 2 points his last 4 games. So let's go with Wyatt to record more than 0.5 points tonight. And my next 2 picks are actually going to be Anaheim Ducks picks, believe it or not. Instagram's own Trevor Zegras, he likes to shoot. Not a lot of them go in. So we're going to go with Zegras more than 1.5 shots on goal. And my guy, Frankie V, when he shoots, it goes in a lot. UMass's own Frank Petrano.
He's a Boston guy, too. Did you know?
He's a Longmeadow. He's an East Longmeadow guy, which is near Springfield, so I wouldn't call him a Boston guy.
Yeah, central Massachusetts.
He was almost a Boston College guy. Look up what happened there. Frank Petrano, more than 0.5 goals. Put those together, put in $10, and you will win $95 on that entry from Sleeper, gentlemen.
Thank you, John. I feel better about your picks already instead of having Sam do it. So let's talk about lineup here. John, if you would flash that up on the screen for the Stars. This is what it looks like with Dodonov out of the lineup. Maverick Bourque moves up to play with Johnston and Ben. I like the way Bourque's been playing. I know he just scored a goal the other night, but I think we've made this point on the show. The last 20 games or so have been a lot better than the early first 40 games of the season for him. He's figured out some things, and I really like Blackwell Steele together with Oscar Beck. That line has a real sense of identity, and I think they balance themselves out pretty well.
Yeah, we've said this, it seems like from game one. We got 5 games into the season, and you're like, well, that line knows who they are.
Mm-hmm.
They know what they need to do to stay together and be part of the group and get a regular shift. The one thing about Maverick, I think for me, we've seen him play up on the top line. We've seen him get some time on the second line. Obviously, the line that he's on now. I think once he started to get going where we're like, okay, now we see who Maverick Bourque is. He hasn't changed when he plays from line to line to line. He's not tailoring his game to who he's playing with. And what he's doing is he's fitting in with all the lines because, again, I didn't know who Maverick was, and I've said this all season long, and you hear he's this point guy and all this offensive stuff. But he's getting, to me, he's getting more things, or predominantly everything that he's getting when he gets on the score sheet is because he's within a couple feet of the net. I mean, it's almost like he picked up and started taking off following what Logan Stankoven was doing. He's playing more of a direct game. He's getting rewarded for it. He gets around the net. He can make good plays, but he doesn't look to make another fancy little play. If he's in a shooting area, he gets the puck to the net, and then he doesn't get moved out of there. He stays there.
The defense is still the same here because Bischel was over his illness. Cece had a family thing today. I don't want to speculate on what that is. Hopefully everything's fine. Pete said he's okay physically, and so he'll most likely play tonight. I don't think there's really much else you can do right now, Luds, because we're sitting here waiting for Miro. And in the meantime, these are the guys that have to get it done.
Well, and you can't approach it from a coaching staff. You can't approach this any differently. You have to. This is the lineup we're starting with.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the group in the back end. This is who's going to start the playoffs. And so let's get them as close to perfect as we can. And they know how they're going to play. They know who can do what and who doesn't do what they need to do. And I think the good news is let's hope that Bichel ends up being healthy this whole time and he gets back. I mean, it's not like he doesn't get into a rhythm. And now we're seeing more confidence from him because, again, this has been said a lot since he's gotten a steady diet of Bichel in the lineup, is that's something that they don't have. I mean, I'm talking he's the only guy on this team that plays that kind of style. And so, you know, if you get into a series against Colorado and you get an opportunity to finish checks on the right players, the guy that's going to do it is going to be him. You know, you would like him to drag some more guys into the fight. I think his partner can do that.
Yep.
You know, Dumba can play that kind of a game too. You just want to make sure, you know, you don't cross that line. And I think Matt Dumba is becoming more and more settled into the whether
Notice we haven't talked about Dumba a lot in the last
That's a good thing.
5 games or so.
Yeah, and you know what? We're not getting a lot of super chats about him either.
No.
And it's because you can't really say anything bad about his game right now. Now, did we just get one?
No, that was just me playing it.
John's just playing around, but we were ready for it.
Yeah.
Well, now we're going to get one.
And I'm telling you, don't these guys don't live in a bubble. They hear things on the outside, and I think as the noise has kind of calmed down from wherever it may be coming from, he's calmed down, and he now feels comfortable in the system. He feels comfortable with his partner or partners, whoever it may be. That's a good thing where they can just go out there. We're not going to light it up. We're not going to be out there to put on a show offensively. We're going to take care of our minutes. And you almost have to approach it like what we're doing, and this is reality. We're going to be out there maybe 14, 15 minutes a game, and we're going to try to make sure we do the right things because we're trying to give the top 4, especially our top 2 guys, enough of a break that they can go out and do what they have to do during a game.
So let's talk about Jake Oettinger for just a minute. He is winless in his last 3 starts, as is the team during that spell. They're 1-2-1. He's 0-2-1. Winnipeg, Colorado, and then Edmonton before, all 3 on the road. But Luds, the team in front of him wasn't great in any of those games either. So it's not just on Jake. Sean wrote a great piece the other night. It was on his Substack, and it had to do with Jake kind of puts a lot of pressure on himself because he talks about wanting to be one of the best goalies in the world. He has the win totals, which says that he and the Dallas Stars are getting the results they want, but his other stats are suggesting that he's probably not a top 5 goalie right now. He might be more of the top 10 or top 15. That's okay because that goaltending is good enough around a good team to win you a Stanley Cup. We've seen that, especially with Colorado. They won, even though they didn't have, a Carey Price level performance. That being said, it seems like the pressure from the fans they want Jake to be 2022 Calgary Jake.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the last 10 games or so, have you come out of the game? Well, there has to be 1 or 2, but how many times do we come out of a game and say Jake stole that game? We're not saying that enough. And it just from a performance standpoint, on the other side of the coin, there are these goals that have gone in that you don't expect Jake to give up, but they're going in for whatever reason. So this right now with the group that is healthy and playing, if everybody's healthy and you got Miro back in there and Tyler's in there, I think you're a little bit more comfortable because you know you can outscore your mistakes a lot of times. And that can be a poor or a soft goal at times. And so I think you squeeze it a little bit more when that guy's not playing because listen, these playoffs are always going to be about the goaltending. Every team, every series, it's going to be about goaltending. And yeah, of course, there's going to be games where whether it's Colorado, Edmonton, Florida, teams that can, light it up, they're going to put 6-7 goals up, but that doesn't happen often. So the goaltenders are under a microscope, and now you're getting into crunch time, and it's a reason that I said, is he going to play? Should he sit out, play 1 game, and then sit out into a game? And if he's not at the top of his game, you play him. You play him back into form. And I'm sure you guys are thinking, well, Casey's got to be getting a start this week.
I thought he was going to play tonight.
You can't do that. You have to play this guy into shape, not shape, but into form. He has to start. He's not tired. I mean, Jake's in
He's
great shape.
26 years old.
He's a great athlete.
He can play every game.
And the way that he plays the game, he's not all over the map, right? He's so big and he slides, similar to Ben Bishop,
Yep.
the way that they played. So now that I said Bishop, I'm going to be calling Jake Bishop tonight at some point here. But I
Get those dropped ready.
I just think that I think you have to play him to where his head is in the right space.
Yep.
And he has to make those saves to feel good about himself. And this isn't an overtaxed lineup going on right now. And Casey's going to get his starts. There's no question he's going to need some rest. He's not playing every game from here on out. But you want to see him put together a complete effort. Doesn't mean it has to be a shutout, but he's got to put a complete effort, in a game and then do it again and then get a night off and then do it and roll into the playoffs.
So let's take a look at the Ducks lineup. It'll be Lukáš Dostál, the goalie, to start tonight because John Gibson's still hurt. He will not back up. It was a game-time decision. So Ville Husso will be Dostál's backup. Dostál's been really good. I think that they've found the next generation from a goaltending perspective. And, John, if you switch back to the forwards, the expectation is this. They had an optional morning skate. Most of the veterans took that off. So we don't know quite yet. Actually, they just put their projected lineup out. And it looks almost identical, except that it looks like Cutter Gauthier is going to go with Strome and Terry. And Vetrano will go with Carlson and Killorn. So just a little bit. Zegras gets moved down with Nestorenko, McTavish, Zegras on the right, and then the fourth line is the same. So pretty similar. They got waxed the other night in St. Louis, where they felt like there was a chance to come back in the game. Special teams really didn't help them against the Blues. And this is a team, Luds, that's 8 points back from the wild card. As we got to the trade deadline, it looked like they might still have a hope and a prayer. But when you look at the standings over the last couple of weeks, they've been under 500, and the deficit to the wild card spots has been no closer than 6. That's a long thing in this system.
I think from the standpoint of the team at the deadline, I don't think Beaker was getting any good offers to give anybody up. And the other side of that is maybe he's seeing some progress. I mean, they've given up 7 goals twice, I think, in their last 4 games or something like that. So, yeah, there's holes there. But in Gibson, I don't know, is he hurt now too? And
he's been hurt. Yeah,
that poor guy's been hurt too much in his career,
Yep.
but he gets overplayed. But I think that maybe what they see is some progress, in this whole thing. Because when you go through that line, you look, they're top 3 in shots against, they're top 3 in high danger chances against, and they're the worst team in the NHL when it comes to faceoffs.
Ooh.
So this
sounds like they don't have the puck a lot.
Exactly, and they spend a lot of time in their own zone. So just those areas right there, and I just would rather pass on those guys and talk about Dallas. And so Dallas can't even look at the situation that Dallas is in. You don't look at the jersey tonight. This isn't about them.
Do you think if anything matters that they've lost to Anaheim twice this year and they have a potential of being swept in the season series?
That being given, you have to put that away. This now is about our team and where we're going to be in 33 days from now, 34, wherever that playoff start date is. And it starts tonight. The last couple games, you had 2 big tests on the road trip. You didn't pass on either one of them. Did you get a point? Yeah. But let's face it, that was fortunate that you got a point out of that. But you let that team get closer to you, so you have to win 16 games left. They got to win 10, 11 of these games and make sure they stay where they are. But more importantly, whether they stay where they are or they flip-flop and they start in Colorado, they have to feel good about their game. And I mean from your goaltender to your defenseman to your forwards.
How about the last one for you tonight? Let's talk about going back to the Stars as opposed to the Ducks. They're 0 for 6 on the power play in the last 3 games. Now, the last couple games, they had 1 opportunity each, so there's not a lot. But what are you seeing after 2 goals and 3 attempts in the first game with Rantanen in Edmonton? They haven't scored in 3. And we've talked off the air and a little bit in the postgame about some slight changes in how they approach versus that real hot streak they just went on.
You talking about the Dallas and the addition of Rantanen? Mm-hmm. There you go. You got a new component there that the other 4 guys got to get used to him, and he has to get used to them. And, listen, he's playing with McKinnon and Makar totally different here right now. I mean, regardless of how good those 2 are and who he's playing with may not be as good as those 2 guys. It's those guys were in certain spots. They hit the holes at a different rate of speed and did differently. He has to figure out those things. In tight areas, he finds the guys that are there. So I think it's just a chemistry thing right now. Even on the entries that I saw in the last couple of games, he's still a little unsure where he's supposed to be going when they're breaking the puck out of the zone. That's a timing thing. They all know that, and they know that they need the practices and things like that to get caught up to speed and get everybody on the same page. But again, just look at the 5 guys that are on the ice. Well, I don't care what group you want to look at. The tools are there. But as far as Rantanen goes, he's going to be setting people up. Now it's a responsibility whoever gets that puck to put it in the net.
It'll be interesting to see how they go as they have 4 games at home, starting with the Ducks tonight at 7 o'clock on Victory Plus. Both teams are on it. So
two quick bing bongs, Owen, by the way.
we got 2 quick bing bongs. Ardell with a little Ludwig or Ludwig Dumba, as he clarifies. Dumba needs a Miller Lite.
I need a Miller Lite.
And then
Bing bong.
Ryan Doyle with a DeSmith 99. Will Otter Jr.
I thought that said utter for me.
It does. Otter Jr. shout out the Ducks today.
Well,
There it
I'm
is.
not going to say that. We
Ryan
don't
already
ever
had a
say
few
that,
Miller
do we?
Lights.
We don't say that. I just hope Jake puts a complete game together. I hope that the guys in front of him don't have to leave him hanging to make too many saves that are 10 bell saves. I think if anything, you want him to feel comfortable at his game from period to period.
Well, we'll find out. Go watch the game. I'm heading off to the AC. Luds is going upstairs, maybe for a Miller Lite. Who's
Right
to
there.
say?
I need a Miller
We'll be
Lite.
here right after the game for the post-game show. So don't go anywhere once the game's over. Come right here to DLS. For John, Lud, Sam, I'm Owen. Thanks very much for joining us.
I believe that they are going to crush these guys tonight.
We all silly like the mayor.